And here we go, off the bench on a Wednesday, second consecutive night of a Cincinnati sports team playing in front of the entire world, and the second straight night that Cincinnati sports had not fared well. Though I will say this about the Redlegs last night, they scored more than the Bengals did on Monday Night Football. So if you want quote unquote solace here on that show, we can start it off with that. Reed Mouse in the chair today. Trace Fowler, we will hear from him. He's going to call in about 10:15. We're going to get the skinny on the Bengals game last night. He went live with Nick Kirby during the entire show. A lot of people tuned into that. Obviously the game didn't go as everyone fared or everyone expected, with Hunter Greene on the bump. And one question that keeps circling around my brain is that every time I heard Reds fans talk about this series, pretty much every argument that they'd win this came from them winning game one with Hunter Greene on the bump. I asked everyone last night, I was like, hey, I get in the Discord, what's your nerves level? And a bunch of people were like, it's really low because we've got Hunter Greene on the bump. Obviously, Hunter Greene didn't pitch very well. Stone Shields in the producer chair. Stone, your Redlegs did not fare well last night, but you're here bright and early, and you're ready to get he's getting some producer wings today. It's the first call on Off the Bench, and he's very, very nervous, but excited to have you in here and excited to have you with me.
Yeah, appreciate that, Reed. We'll see how the call goes, if it'll, in fact, be transpiring or not. But, yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously not the game we were hoping for last night. Hunter Greene, 3 innings, got absolutely shelled. Not ideal. And, nothing to lose. We said that, so we'll see how they respond tonight.
Yeah, so that's where I kind of want to start things here today. It's you've got nothing to lose was the mentality that we heard from, all Reds fans. You're playing with house money. That's the old adage, right? You got nothing to lose, playing with house money. Play loose, play free. Well, it was pretty clear that wasn't the case, at least for the guy on the bump. And you've got to start to wonder, hey, if that was the one advantage that the Reds had. They were the team that was coming in that shouldn't be there. 83 wins. The last time that a team won the World Series with 83 wins was 2006, and I think that's the only time that's ever happened. So, hey, you're here. You got nothing to lose. You're farther than anyone ever expected. Play loose, but it's apparent that this team did not do that. And it's a reminder of, though we feel something as fans, those players, that this is their life, this is, where they spend, where we, spend 2 hours on the Reds every single night. They wake up and they get to the field. If it's a 7 o'clock game, they get to the field at 11, they start hitting, they start working out, and they spend their entire day. That's their job. And this is where they think. And though it's just, hey, you got nothing to lose here, this is what they've been working for their entire life, was to play in this atmospheres. And though we can say you can play loose, you can play free, you can do all those things, it's much different. It's much different for players that this is what they've been working towards. And the only hope that you can have going forward is that, all right, well, we lost, and now it backs up against the wall, and you're getting into the kind of same headspace where you're saying, all right, now you'll play loose. Now you play free, because if you lose to this Dodgers team that preseason we talked about, is this team going to win 120 games, 116 games, which would break the record, 117 games, 2001 Seattle Mariners. If they're going to do that, no one expects them to. Roster top to bottom. You honestly forget how good this Dodgers roster is till they bring up Hall of Famer Shohei Ohtani, then they bring up Hall of Famer Mookie Betts, and they bring up Hall of Famer Freddie Freeman. They bring up All-Star after All-Star, Teoscar Hernández, guys that were postseason heroes that weren't All-Stars, Tommy Edman, guys like that. When you start seeing this lineup come to fruition, you go, oh, all right, well, yeah, I understand why everyone thought this team was going to win 117 games. The glory of this all is, of the 10-5 loss that you suffered last night, is that baseball is still an incredibly random sport. And if you can play 18 great innings, you'll be moving on. Stone, I mentioned it. It seemed like everyone thought that this team had a chance to play loose, a chance to play with quote-unquote house money. To me, it seemed like everyone was just tight. A lot of free swings, a lot of swinging outside of the zone. It felt like Hunter Greene was over-pitching at times and missing his spots. I thought that they just didn't play loose as we expected them to play.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it really started right when the game started, when you had a pitch com issue right off the bat, right? They just looked a little bit rattled. Hunter couldn't understand, what was going on with him and Tyler Stevenson. And then, boom, Ohtani makes you pay right away. You're down 1-0. Obviously still in the game there at that point, but then things begin to snowball on you a little bit. And, I think we all know as Reds fans, if you go into this game and give up 10 runs, there was absolutely no way you had a chance at winning it. It's unfortunate, how obviously it transpired with all the pitchers. Barlow was really good, excellent, right? He goes in an inning and 2/3, 4 strikeouts, and then they pulled him. And then Connor Phillips got absolutely shelled. I get you don't just want to sit there and ride Barlow for forever, but it's a righty for a righty. Like, there's no real matchup that you won by taking him out there. So that's, a bit of a head scratcher there. And I think some of us, was like, should they have let Hunter ride a little bit longer, save the pen for tomorrow, especially if Littell is only going to be able to be like an opener for you or give you only an inning or two? I don't know. But bottom line, you give up 10 runs. It's an elite lineup. There's no let up in that lineup. I mean, top to bottom, we knew this going in. But if you're going to give up 10 runs, you got no chance. And that's just not the way this team is made up. And I think we all understand that. So once it got out of hand that early, it was just like, all right, can we get some runs on the board to get a little positive momentum going into tomorrow, right? Because for a second there, it felt like, oh, my goodness, it's going to be a continuation of the COVID series against the Braves where we show up and literally don't even score. So, the fielder's choice there from Elliott's like, oh, wow, we just got on the board. Got some help there from the bullpen, obviously, of LA. But scoring 5 runs, I think, is some positive momentum that hopefully transfers over to tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you win the last couple innings. If that's worth anything, I don't think it's worth a whole lot. But, yeah, you do put some runs on the board. You kind of can say, all right, we're loosening up, right? You take that positive momentum, you go forward, and like I said, I see some people in the chat saying, hey, I hate it when Reed talks Reds. That's why we're having Trace Fowler on in about 5 minutes. I will say this. I truly wonder how much the inexperience played yesterday. Because like I said, it seemed everyone was just tight. And Blake Snell is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Multiple time Cy Young winner. That's a short list of players that, there's not many pitchers that can add that, have 2 separate Cy Young awards on their mantle, especially 2 different Cy Youngs in different leagues like Blake Snell has. So you're facing him. You're already at a tall task. Your ace pitcher gives up a home run to start the game, and then things kind of just snowball after that. And we all know that this team isn't going to win many games, 8-6, 9-8. That's not how this team's made up. You can make fun of the small ball because that's what Tito has been saying all year. We're a small ball team, and the reason he thinks that is the reason he says that is because this team doesn't put a whole lot of offensive output out there. So when you got to score just a few runs, you try to manufacture them any way you can. And I fully understand that when the Reds don't play small ball, they play better. When they hit home runs, that's when they win. I get it. I'm just telling you that's where the mantra comes from, is that he understands that, hey, where this team is built to win 3-2, 3-1. And when your ace gives up a lot of runs, things get on you in a hurry. And they start to spiral. And you got another great pitcher on the mound tonight for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Yamamoto. I think I pronounced his first name right. I know I got his last name right. Who obviously is got a $300 million contract before throwing a single inning in Major League Baseball. And if he lived up to the hype that his contract surrendered, that's up to you. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. He's nasty. He's disgusting. And you got Zach Littell on the bump, which I know has a lot of people worried and a lot of people shaking off. It's the season's on the line tonight at Dodger Stadium. Can you make it happen? Can you make it happen? 18 innings. That's all it takes. 18 magical innings. And the thing about postseason, everyone's going to, scratch their head about whatever the lineup's going to come out, about Zach Littell getting the start on the bump. The time for worrying about the process is done. It's over. You grade the process over 162. It's the marathon, not the sprint of a baseball season. All you're looking at now is results, point blank. So every move that is made in the postseason from all the teams that made it, what is it, 12 teams that make the Major League postseason. Every move is graded not on was that the right move to make based off the stats, based off matchups, based off of everything you can say. It's only graded on if it works or not. You are done worrying about the process. It is all about the results. So we can sit here ever since Zach Littell was announced as Game 2 starter and go like, man, is he going to throw an inning? Is he going to throw 2 innings? How deep is he going to go in the game? Is he an opener? What's going to happen? I can't make sense of this. Andrew Abbott, I'd rather him throw on short rest. I'd rather him come for Game 2 because he's been fantastic all season long. And obviously the Dodgers have a lot of left-handed hitters at the start of their lineup. Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman. Seems to make a little more sense. But if Zach Littell comes in there and shoves, you're not worried about the process anymore. It's all results driven. Whoever starts tonight that you're like, I can't believe they hit so-and-so instead of Will Benson, whoever it is in the lineup, they get 2 hits. It's results over process. You understand fully why you run the process gamut for 162 games, because over long periods of time, the process wins out. I feel like all my analogies are one of 2 things. It's either gambling or it's like relationship driven. But it's if you've ever sat down at a blackjack table, you heard the phrase, you got to go by the book. You got to go by the book. The numbers say this is the most optimal way to play. But sometimes you'll make more money sitting at the table if you show up with $100 or $200 and you're not going to be playing for 4 hours and this is your one time a year that you go to the casino. Maybe you should just go off your gut and not the book. Because the book will lose. Sometimes that your gut will win. And at the end of the day, when you're walking out of the casino, you'd rather have more money than you walked in with, or any money for that matter. But all's to say that you got 9 more innings today. You got 9 more innings today. Can you make the most of it? Can you put more runs on the board than the Los Angeles Dodgers? Can you go into Game 3, winner take all, winner to play the Philadelphia Phillies in the National League Division Series? Stone, Trace isn't in here, I presume, yet?
Not yet.
All right. Did you send him a link over DM?
I did.
DM'd him? All right. I'll send him a text. Sorry. Stone.
Huh.
All optimism around this series seemed to stem from Hunter Greene taking Game 1. Almost every route that the Reds, I talked to Reds fans, are like, I feel really good about Hunter Greene. You lose Game 1. Does it feel like the dream's done? I mean, I know you're back against the wall. It's you lose and you're done. But have you lost all faith?
Wouldn't say that. I mean, you're facing elimination tonight, right? I mean, why go in there and say, oh, we're absolutely cooked? You got an opportunity tonight. Did it feel like you needed to win last night with your ace on the mound? Yeah, it did. But he didn't look like your ace last night. I mean, he got, shelled in the ball game. Only was able to go 3 innings. So I think you pick up some positive momentum, scoring some runs in the game last night. Some of it was a gift, obviously, from the bullpen. But you put 5 on the board. I didn't think the Reds would score 5 runs last night. Obviously, it's a 10-5 game. It's out of hand or whatever. But I didn't expect them to be able to put 5 runs up on the board. So I think there's still some reason to be optimistic. We'll see how Tito handles the pen in this game. We'll see how he handles the lineup. But ultimately, they're going to have to find a way to score runs. They scored some last night. Obviously, it was too little, too late. But, no reason to write them off. They got an opportunity. We'll see. Obviously, they're significant underdogs in the game. But, another opportunity to extend their season by another day.
Do you know the betting line?
It's like plus 220.
Plus 220, yeah. That's
outrageous.
pretty significant. I mean, Yamamoto versus Zach Littell isn't exactly the lineup or the pitching matchup that breathes a lot of confidence here in Cincinnati. But like I said, it's baseball, and weird things happen in this sport. I always talk about Brandon Pfaadt in the 2023 NL playoffs, playing for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And his ERA that season was about a 7. And what did he do? no one pitched better in the 2023 playoffs than Brandon Pfaadt. Bellarmine, Louisville native. But I believe we have Trace Fowler here joining in. It's the boss. And you know what, Trace, I don't know if you know this, but our crack producer, Stone, he's never done an interview. So I said,
I love that.
I said, hey, we're going to bring on an interview, and we're going to do it with the boss. So you better not mess it up. And he was very, very nervous. But I hear you. I see you. So it's all working good. Hey, we're both wearing our Hamilton shirts, by the way.
So that we are. Yeah, we're representing well there. Representing well. Tough night, Reed. Tough night. I mean, realistically speaking, I guess where I'm at is like at some point, sometimes if you get beat up enough or if you just get so far down the pike to where you felt like you never really felt competitive in a game, you kind of sometimes feel better about it. I went to bed feeling like we were completely outmatched. I woke up thinking the same, and now it's like you get another opportunity to fight a fight at 0-0. And I don't think that anybody in their right mind would suggest that you're in a good spot having to win 2 games in a row in LA against a Dodgers team who has the capabilities of really going all out in a game and making it extremely difficult to win. But you get a chance, and I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I think that I just had this team dead so many times this year that at some point you have to at least look at yourself in the mirror and say, maybe you're not the guy that's right. Maybe you're not the guy that should say that they're dead. So I'm not going to say they're dead. I'm here to watch them tonight. Again, Zach Littell, I think he'll throw about 3 or 4 hitters. So I'm not overly concerned about the fact that we have Zach Littell going against maybe arguably one of the best. Well, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't know if he's the best, but I don't know. I guess I'm at a point now where I even looked up the lyrics for the old Hamilton lyrics that I was thinking of, and it's we were outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, and outplanned. And I feel like that's the truth of the nature that we find ourselves in.
Trace doesn't like to think of himself as a cultured guy, but he is a big Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. He's a big
Hamilton's
fan.
An all-timer, man. It's an all-timer in Hamilton. Shout out to Hamilton, Ohio, too, as well. Why not? But anyway, Reed, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so there was this idea going into this postseason that the biggest advantage that the Reds had was that they were playing with house money, that they were playing loose, that they had nothing to lose. My takeaway watching the game last night was that clearly wasn't the case with the way that the players played. Hunter Greene obviously was very tight, didn't pitch well. I thought he was overthrowing. He was missing locations. I thought there was a lot of bad swings early on in the game, which, you played baseball. Sometimes you get too amped up and you just want to make a play and you're swinging at terrible pitches. That was the one advantage that I had. Do you feel like that portrayed itself on the field last night? And I don't know your opinion on how they played in that regard.
I feel like there was really house money for everybody but Hunter Greene. He had something to prove, unfortunately. Maybe that was the downfall or the missing link that we didn't see. It was that, he did have something to prove, because I think for a long time this town, their narrative around Hunter Greene has always been, he's a good pitcher, but he's not an elite pitcher. He's had elite moments, though, and he's looked like he's elite multiple times. I still stand on the fact that I'm not going to let one outing judge or portray my overall perspective of what I think about Hunter Greene. If he went out and threw 9 innings yesterday of shutout baseball, of course, the whole entire city would be talking about how, he's basically a Cy Young type pitcher. And I think that he's not that far away from that. The truth is, though, is he pitched in his hometown. I do think that there was some 100% nerves associated with this. And as much as we'd like to think that the regular season and the postseason, or I should say meaningful baseball down the stretch and postseason are the same, clearly they're not. I think that there's a whole nother level to this that you got to try to rank up. And unfortunately, I felt like he was one of the few guys personally that probably was a little overamped and just didn't perform well. The lineup, I mean, not to try to sound crass or be overly funny, but that's who they are. I mean, they're going to have some bad swings. They're going to have some bad at-bats. They're not going to look good at times. That's just who the Cincinnati Reds offensive baseball team is. But it was nice to see them get on the board. I mean, that's maybe there's stupid moral victories you take and it means nothing, but genuinely speaking, them getting shut out would have been yet another talking point, yet another opportunity to just jump down, I guess, the throat of the organization and talk about how it's an unserious and all these types of things. And, did 5 runs mean anything from an actual competitive standpoint last night, from the chance to win, no. But, I take that back a little bit. I keep thinking back on the game. Tyler Stevenson, if he's capable of having a big swing there, maybe it changes the dynamic of it all. But truth is that they were just playing a team that was better than them, and I think Hunter Greene tried to do too much. You're right.
Take us through, you talked about that 8th inning where you bring 3 runs, you had the bases juiced with 1 away. Tyler Stevenson's kind of having a long at bat. Take us through where your headspace was, because I'm sure it was already written off when it was 8-0, and then it was 10-2, and then you're like, did you start to get back into it? Take us through your headspace through that 8th inning.
Yeah, I felt like we were completely obviously out of it, like every other Reds fan. But then, they let us back in, and I felt like that was the only chance that the Reds really had to get back in the game, was that the Dodgers did something unorthodox. Everybody talked about before the game, the one weakness that this Dodgers team had was their bullpen, and I kind of, to be honest, Reed, like I kind of jokingly smirk at those types of remarks, because the truth is they're just so damn good that, if you took whatever they had that you said isn't good and you put them on the Reds, I think that the Reds fans or us collectively would be like, yeah, that's a pretty solid part of our team. The Dodgers let us back in the game last night in the 8th inning, and it was a little disheartening or disappointing, whatever term you'd like to use. I've played baseball long enough. You've played baseball long enough. And I'm not trying to say that I've played Major League Baseball, but I think I've played high enough of a level to know when you're in an at-bat, and Reed, that you're trying to battle and you're kind of just touching pitches and you're trying to basically make sure that you protect the plate, you can kind of get into swing mode sometimes. And I think that unfortunately happened to Tyler. I'm not saying he would have swung at anything at all, but when folks are like, well, he swung at ball, 4, 5, 6, and 7, he did, but he also had like a 12 or 13 pitch at bat. That is a great at bat. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, I can't believe Tyler Stevenson swung at ball 4. He was doing a good job. They had some really good at bats in that inning as well. They laid off some really tough pitches. And it was unfortunate that he, obviously swung at the pitches. And I guess semi-disappointed at this point. I'm just kind of like ready to be done with the whole thing with Tito, and whether he should pinch hit for certain guys or not pinch hit, or whether they should have brought up somebody with some power that came off the bench instead of Santiago Espinal. And I don't know, you guys, if we want to sit here and fight about those things, we can, but it was, I guess, a little disheartening that you had Ke'Bryan Hayes come up in a spot like that and obviously hit a weak ground ball to second base, and that ended the threat. And that was pretty much it. But we got outplayed, man. I mean, it feels like, in a way, if we're going to get frustrated or upset that we had a chance last night, it's almost like, I don't know, we went down the field and we scored a touchdown to make it a 10-point game late, and then we muffed the onside kick to possibly get us the ball back to have a chance to go and maybe make it a 1-score game. Like, I don't know how close we really were, but I guess it makes us feel better, so we'll talk about it.
It got you on the edge of your seat, maybe not yelling at the TV. Like, it got you back in a little bit. You're like, yeah, there's a path here, and then you're just like, all right. That's what I thought was going to happen. You don't want to get too overexcited. You mentioned, pulling guys off the bench, kind of power bats. Tonight there's going to be a right-hander on the mound, Yamamoto, in the presumed lineup. If the Reds are going to do this, there's going to be some hero, right? There's going to be some guy that's going to have a big at-bat. There's going to have a big swing, home run, double, bases, whatever it is. Is there anybody that you think might be in the lineup tonight that you're kind of eyeing? Like, I think this guy might have a big game or might have a big swing tonight. Is there anybody that you're thinking, like, he might do it tonight?
No, I mean, the obvious with the right-handed pitcher, they're going to stick Gavin Lux in the 3-hole. He's going to have to play well in order for this team to get scoring opportunities, because you just don't come across those a ton, I think, from this lineup in general on a night in, night out basis. Ultimately, there's only so many guys that can kind of make that big swing and get the ball quite literally over the fence. I'd like to think, and I hope and pray that Stevenson continues to play. I don't think that I don't see any scenario in the world where Trevino could possibly be in the lineup. So I hold my breath a little bit there. But I think Stevenson's seeing the ball well right now. I do. I think that he's a guy that for all intents and purposes, it was very confusing. He didn't play 2 of the 3 games in Milwaukee when you felt like you needed to have a sweep. So Stevenson's probably the guy that sticks out right now. I think he's having really, really a lot of quality at bats. Ellie's going to be the X factor, as he always is. If he's capable of getting on base 3-4 times in a game, it just changes the dynamic of your scoring opportunities, because as you've seen last night, he gets on first base via a walk. Stevenson hits one down the line. I'm not suggesting that he's the only guy in the league that could have scored there, but he's one of the few. And realistically speaking, whether or not they turn into the running red legs again, I don't know, but it would be nice. It would be nice to see them kind of put some pressure on the Dodgers, but they're going to have to hit the ball either in the gaps or over the fence. And I would say Stevenson's the one guy that I would hope could kind of provide that opportunity for them, at least down lower into the lineup.
You've already mentioned Zach Littell. You don't expect him to go very long in the game. What do you expect from Littell, and who do you think that first guy out of the pen is going to be? Who do you think they're going to be going to early on in that game if they do pull him after, an inning or two?
I think it's Lodolo, and I think the reason that they made this move personally is because they don't – I don't say they don't trust. I think Nick Lodolo also doesn't totally trust the situation that he has from a health perspective. I think that he got pulled out of a game where he was in a must-win game for the Cincinnati Reds. He had a career-high strikeouts with 12. He looked absolutely dominant. The Pittsburgh Pirates looked like they had zero chance to score off of him. And then all of a sudden, Trevino sees something with him, and he's not totally sure what was going on. So Trevino goes out there. He mentions that he's got a little bit of a groin situation going on. Tito goes out there. It's rumored, or it's said in the media, that he basically stated that he was going to try to finish the game. He was not going to come out. And Tito said, nope, you got to come out because ultimately – there might be more meaningful baseball games, and I can't have you obviously exacerbate the problem here as we sit in basically a one-run lead against the Pirates. So he comes out of the game, and I think from that point forward, they had made a decision internally that they were not going to start him for the mere fact that they wanted to make sure that if he does have another instance or a situation to where he gets hurt, they can get themselves in a part of the game where they can turn to relievers that I think that they trust and also are familiar with that role. You start Lodolo tonight, let's just say, for instance, you start him, he goes out there, and the next thing you know, his groin's causing him problems within the first 5 hitters. Well, now you're rushing a guy out there personally that either is a starter, right, like a Littell or someone else that's never come out of the pen, or if they have, it's been relatively infrequent. And then on top of that, you got a spot where you're going to ask Chase Burns to come into a game super early. So I think ultimately that's what this is about. If Lodolo's really good tonight and he throws the ball like he did against the Dodgers the last time, I think that he goes 6, 7 innings, 8 innings if he's throwing the ball really, really well. But they're going to ride him until he's either not effective or he gets hurt again. And I think that that's the whole reason as to why they decided to start Littell, is because they wanted to make sure that they gave, I guess, for lack of a better term, a chance for them to give Lodolo an out to get hurt. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like that's really the only reason that they're doing this. And you guys, everyone's going to say, well, they're trying to play 3D chess. Don't give me a break. I mean, do you think for a single second that a baseball team that you watched all year long, from an analytics perspective, from a let's try to win on the margins perspective with Tito Francona, is what they're going to do against the Los Angeles Dodgers? I mean, you think the Dodgers don't think that, we're going to put a lineup out there for a righty and then all of a sudden they're going to really get us with a left-hander coming in? I mean, no, they're not going to do that, Nick. Like, I don't say Nick, Reed. They're not going to do that. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Sorry, it's a bad habit as I sit here in front of the screen too many times a year. But I would just say ultimately that's the plan. I could be completely wrong, and if I am wrong, I hope I'm wrong in the direction that Littell goes out and throws 4 shutout innings. But he's going to throw to like 4 or 5 hitters, and that'll be that.
So you don't think that the Reds are trying to goad the Dodgers into putting in a righty-centric or a lefty-centric lineup against a right-handed pitcher? You think
if they are, the Dodgers aren't idiots enough to fall for that trap. Like, with all due respect, like, would you rather hit some guys maybe that have a slight disadvantage because there's a right-hander on the mound and keep your traditional lineup that you would against a left-handed pitcher, and have Zach Littell try to go an extra couple innings? I mean, yeah, I would personally. If the Dodgers want to take Yamamoto out of the game and throw some opener as a left-handed opener, and we have to somehow, we can't play Gavin Lux now, I actually would say we'll just hit Gavin Lux against the left-handed pitcher, and we'll allow the rest of the lineup to hit against a far, far, far inferior pitcher than the better one. So no, I don't think for a single second the Dodgers are going to fall for anything. It's more or less, I think, just it's just a cover up for the fact that Lodolo's hurt and or not totally sure if he's capable of throwing for more than an inning, maybe 2 innings max.
Final thing I'll ask you is, it seemed like every path to victory that the Reds had of winning this series was taking game 1 with your ace on the bump, Hunter Greene.
Yeah.
That was kind of thing that you kind of breathed any optimism going down to Chavez Ravine and taking 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. Does it feel like it's dead with Hunter pitching like he did yesterday?
Well, I mean, it's certainly you're behind the 8 ball. I don't know. I don't know if it's dead. I feel like whenever you play a 3-game set, the only reason I feel like it's not dead is because anybody can win on any given day just based off of luck. I mean, we might run out there and have 2 or 3 or 4 guys just run into some baseballs, and it's pure luck that you score 6, 7, 8 runs tonight. Is that likely? Of course, it's not likely. But if I know one thing that can happen, there's a small chance, and the only real reason that this team is in the postseason at all is because we have a major market that felt some pressure, and that major market team kind of crumbled under that pressure. Am I suggesting the Dodgers are going to crumble under pressure? Maybe not as much as I would the Mets, but I do think that if you can get it to a game 3, crazy stuff can happen. I mean, it's a 9-inning game, and it's for your entire season, and the Reds somehow find a way to score maybe a run or 2 runs earlier in the game. I do think in game 3 you could put a lot of pressure on them, and they could maybe make some kind of non-traditional Dodger errors or plays. So it's not dead to me. I really know that might sound oxymoronic because I've called the season dead thousands of times, but the truth is that they have put it this way, they have a significantly higher chance to win this series than they did to make the playoffs at the beginning of September. So, take that for what it's worth. And if you're a Reds fan, I would just say, I'm not saying that you don't care about the game or the outcome. Of course we all do. But, I mean, why wouldn't you want to be excited about tonight? Why wouldn't you want to watch? What's the point of being a fan is if the first time in how many ever years, and I know we can count 2020, but realistically speaking, the first time they've been in the postseason since 2013 with a full regular season, why not get yourself in a spot where you feel good? And I personally, for whatever dumb reason, as much as I've put time, effort, and energy into this franchise and this baseball team this year, I feel good. I feel like, you know what? Why not? Why not go out there and just have fun and play loose and see what happens? Now, if the players don't have that mindset, well, then I guess it doesn't matter. But we'll see ultimately what happens, I guess.
It's probably a better question for your co-host, Nick Kirby. What do Chatterbox Reds have in store for today?
Well, we have a pregame show that's going to go on at 8:30, and then we will obviously go live in the beginning of the game at 9:08. I think is this official start time yet again. But with ESPN and the whole situation at hand, who knows really what happens? Don't want to get into the fact that we switched over to WNBA coverage in the middle of me trying to watch a Shohei Ohtani hit in the first inning, and then he proceeds to hit a home run that I didn't get to see. I get that they told me 3, 4, 5 times when first of all, my television's muted because I'm doing a show, so I can't hear it. I get relatively that they might have told everybody to switch over, but you mean to tell me that you couldn't have just waited maybe 4 or 5 more minutes there and just cut it over in the middle of the commercial break? You just had to get to that WNBA coverage that, quite frankly, I'll say it, nobody really cared about at that time of day. I don't know. What a dumb move by ESPN. So we're gonna go live in the 9th, and or we're gonna go live in the at 9:08, not the 9th, but at 9:08 or whenever the I guess first pitch is, and then we'll take it all the way through, and then we'll do the post game show directly after the game like we always have, and hopefully it's a winning edition so we can find a way to do it again the following day.
Yeah, I was watching the ESPN broadcast, and you got to see Aroldis Chapman shut down the Yankees, bases juiced, 3 consecutive outs, and then he goes straight into it, and you're like, all right, here's the Reds game, and then Shohei goes deep. I'm like, well, that stinks. So it got
Well,
bad.
that's probably cool to the national audience.
Well, it was really correct. It was pretty neat. If you're a baseball fan, that was pretty neat. But as someone who's pulling for the Reds, that was not what you wanted. Not what you wanted to see. Trace, thanks so much for hopping on today. Good luck to the Reds later on today. Chatterbox Reds. They did a live show with the lineup yesterday. I don't know if Craig and Kirby are doing that again. But
you never know with Kirby. He's a content machine. Yeah, he's a grinder. The guy might be working on some kind of extra edition show as we speak. But I'll leave him be to that. He does quite literally maybe more work for Chatterbox Reds than humanly possible. So he's got like 6 kids. By 6 kids, maybe 4, but you get
like
the point.
4. Thanks so much, Trace, for hopping on.
All right, man. See you, Reader.
Stone, first off, congrats on your first interview.
Yeah, that was pretty good, huh?
Your first interview as a producer. I told them a story about a long time ago. I produced for Tom when Tom was in this chair, and I forget who the interview was. It was a big one. It might have been Brian Billick or something like that. It was a big name, and it was my first time ever producing on VMix. And we have this interview, and Tom could not hear the person in the thing, and he's waving at me off screen. He's I mean, he was frantic, and I'm running around this office trying to figure out what it is. I just didn't turn up his volume. That's all I needed to do the entire time. So you felt pretty dumb. But Stone, I thought you did a great job on the interview. Congrats on getting your interview wings.
Yeah. How about it, huh? I don't think you were very confident that we were going to be able to get that done.
I think you think I think. No. I think very highly of you, Stone. I think you think that I think very lowly of you. I think very highly of you. You do a great job. Stone Shield Show coming up here at 11. He got his interview wings here. I wanted to have Trace on just to talk about the Reds game. He's still holding a lot of confidence. The one thing that I thought perhaps more than anything else that he said, that if you want to take to a bank as a Reds fan, it's true, is that the Reds odds, as far-fetched as they seem, being, plus 225 on the money line tonight against Yamamoto, one of the best pitchers in the league. Whatever the odds are of the Reds winning this series, taking 2 from the Dodgers here, significantly higher than they were when we started this show on September 6th, when they were down to 1% odds to make the postseason. I don't know if you guys ever think about, I want to live in, this idea of all these different realities, the multiverse and all this stuff. You're living in the 1% multiverse where the Reds actually played some postseason games. So we'll hear a quick word from our sponsors, and we've got the fan favorite mailbag coming up. As you guys know, with mailbag, these are questions that you guys mailed in, that you personally mailed in. They are not written by me or Stone. You guys wrote them in, and we answer your guys' questions every Wednesday here on Off the Bench. Stone, I believe you got my email, right? You got my email?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. There's probably a lot of typos in there. I did it really fast. Or I
right,
copied them.
Yes,
I copied them very fast.
Yes.
The Job Center is now hiring. Start working fast with weekly pay, flexible shifts, and great opportunities at top local employers. Apply in person at any location across 12 states or online at thejobcenter.com. Light up your events with Queen City Screens. Our cutting-edge LED video boards deliver vibrant visuals and crystal clear displays for any occasion. From concert to corporate events, we've got you covered. Visit queencityscreens.com to rent your LED solution today. Queen City Screens, where brilliance meets impact. Reed, are you okay? Yeah, I'm just I'm giggling. That was something. All right, Stone. Mailbag coming up here. You got the first mailbag?
Yeah, here we go. First question here from Optimistic John S. Dear Off the Bench crew, the Cleveland Browns have decided to go with their rookie quarterback Dillon Gabriel and sit veteran Joe Flacco. Do you think Gabriel will be successful for the Browns?
Ooh, got an NFL question going first. Thanks, Optimistic John Silvani. No. I don't know. As hard as I've been on the Bengals for the last 24 hours, and as hard as I'll continue to be on the Bengals going forward, the Browns, the one thing that, I'm just not sure what they're doing. It's pretty clear that they think that Dillon Gabriel was their preferred rookie. I think that was Andrew Barry's draft, and then the owner told him to get Shador. But having 4 quarterbacks, whatever it was there for a while, just a dumpster fire. And now you're going to throw Dillon Gabriel out there. I mean, you can say that there's no expectations, but talk about a place we often say where you land matters in the NFL. You just can't. You just got to do everything you can not to land in Cleveland. So, no, I do not think Dillon Gabriel will be very successful. What say you, Stone?
Yeah, I don't either. Dillon Gabriel, obviously a really, really solid college quarterback, but, we've seen a lot of guys that are successful in college that struggle to make the jump to the professional level. Stuff he was doing offensively at Oregon, that's not a pro-style offense, right? Even Central Florida, Oklahoma, all those schools that he went to, it's not a pro-style offense. I've got questions with his size, obviously, his arm strength, And in a lot of ways, he reminds you of Tua. I'm not just saying that because he's from Hawaii and he's left-handed, but he's very dependent on timing and rhythm, right? He's hit the back foot, let it rip. Well, if that first or second read isn't there for Dillon Gabriel, I question his ability to extend plays, get outside the pocket, and also push the football down the football field as well. And, we saw him play a pro-style defense against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, their first playoff game, and that was probably his worst game of his college career. So, I'm not just writing him off because he's a Cleveland Brown, but it says a lot that the organization going with him over Shedeur. I kind of feel like you have to, considering where they were drafted, but I'm sure a lot of Browns fans are frustrated that they're making the switch to Gabriel and not Sanders, but I'm not expecting much from him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe this was the plan from the get-go, was we're going to have a veteran start for a few games, Joe Flacco, see the game kind of progress, and then it was always going to go to Dillon Gabriel at the start of October. If that was their plan, then, hey, we'll see how it pans out for them. That's probably the end of the Joe Flacco career, maybe. That could be the end of it all. I don't know. But it's not going to be successful. I mean, Dillon Gabriel was a pretty good college quarterback, so he won a lot of games. We're seeing more and more that the more games you start in college leads to success. Like, I don't know, look at Jackson Dart, who won his first game against the Los Angeles Chargers this week. Look at Bo Nix, who has been pretty good. Those are guys that were lifelong quarterbacks in college, started 60-plus games. So the more time, more reps that you get, the better these quarterbacks are. And I think quarterback play in the NFL has never been at a higher standard. I truly, truly believe that. I think even the bad quarterbacks look pretty good more often than not. Just not here in Cincinnati. Next mailbag question.
Yeah, here we go. From Evan Maurer, Dear Reed and Stone. I've been a ardent supporter of Terry Francona. Wow, fancy word there from Evan. I understand that no one pulls levers like Tito, but I can't quite wrap my brain around Littell starting tonight. What are your thoughts on the Z-Man getting on the bump?
Evan Maurer has been an ardent supporter of Terry Francona. Let the record show that to be true. He understands, like we all understand, that no one pulls levers like old Tito. I think it's a wait and see. It seems incredibly apparent that he's just going to be an opener and they're going to go to Nick Lodolo. But I will ask the question of, what if that's not the plan? What if that's – and all of the things that everyone that isn't so fond of Terry Francona as Evan Maurer is, man, that's a pretty damning spot then if Zach Littell goes 3 or 4 innings and gives up 2 runs. Like, it isn't like shutting him down and you're just like, he looks really good, let's just keep throwing him out there. But I think that we know that that's not going to be the case. Trace laid out a pretty good case that he thinks it's silly to think that the Reds are trying to goad Dave Roberts and the Dodgers franchise into going righty-centric or, going with a lot of lefties and then pulling Nick Lodolo out of the pen. So I said this earlier in the show, and I truly mean this. Process is what you grade it off of for 162. You're like, are we doing the right things? Is this the way that we should be going? We're doing the right matchups, which Terry hasn't done a very good job at times this year. But when it comes to the postseason baseball, all that matters. The process is done. Throw it out the window. It's all about results. Pull any lever you want, but it better work out. Because if it doesn't, you're going to be on a stake. We talked a lot about Zach Littell. Stone, any more thoughts about Littell starting?
Yeah, I think Trace pretty much hit the nail on the head. This kind of feels like a spot for Lodolo. If you don't have the health concerns with him, you just probably roll him out as the starter, I would think. I mean, obviously he pitched in against Milwaukee in the final game of the year out of the pen, so there's, could he, be ready to be the full-time starter? There's questions when it relates to that. I totally get that. As it relates to Littell, is he just going to be an opener? Kind of feels like that, but also I don't think that should, be the concrete plan. Like, if he goes in there and pitches well in the first inning and doesn't give up a run in the first inning, I would roll him back out there for the second. Now, you have questions about whether or not you would let him face Ohtani for a second time. That probably wouldn't be a great thing. But, if he has success in the first inning, I'd throw him back out there for the second, maybe even the third as well. You just have questions on whether or not he has to go up against Ohtani for a second time. But totally different pitcher than Hunter Greene. Obviously, Hunter Greene is a guy he's got a great fastball. When he was pitching well, obviously he was locating it really well. He didn't locate last night, as Tito Tito alluded to, and he got hammered. But totally different approach for Littell. He's got that split finger. He likes to live there on the corners, and the Dodgers are going to be seeing a totally different style of pitcher tonight in Zach Littell. So I think there's reason to be optimistic. We've seen him be really effective with that split finger in the past. So I think if he gets hit up a little bit and you're getting some base knocks off him, then you make the move pretty early. But if he's dealing, keep him in the game. Kind of the thought process of me last night with Barlow. He was dealing. Why'd you take him out of the game? So we'll see what Tito decides to do here. But for the most part, I would be surprised, and I think most people would be shocked if he ended up pitching deep into this ballgame.
All right, next mailbag.
Right back to you now, and right back to me. How about that producer work right there? All right, here we go. From Everett Henry, I've always been the most optimistic person in the chat.
He is?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm getting very excited about the thought of the Reds being in the hunt every year. Do you guys think this is the new regular for the Reds? P.S. #Ramley. Is that one of your private school buddies?
No, he's
okay.
not.
Okay.
He went to Ross High School.
Oh, got it.
They're both the Rams.
Got it. Yeah.
Ramley. Stone likes to make fun of me because I went to private school, even though he probably fits more of the private school vibe than I do. That's all I'm saying. Do I think this is the regular? Are the Reds going to be in the hunt every single year with the expanded playoff, 3 wild card teams? We've now been doing this, for 4 years? I think 4 years. And more often than not, the final wild card team is, in the low to mid 80s. I think 84 wins, 85 wins, 83. I think last year was an anomaly when it was like 88. And with the current roster build, with the pitching staff that they have, you should absolutely be expecting the Reds to be in this sort of a hunt. You'd hope that they'd be, fighting for the one wild card spot, getting around that 90 wins and getting home playoff spots. But yeah, I think that you can start to expect this to be the regular for the Reds. And the reason I say that is, and I know the pitching staff has been unbelievable this year, from pretty much top to bottom in that lineup, people underperformed expectations. And it wasn't like this was going to be some boom offensive output. Like they pretty much, Ellie didn't play up to his standards. Spencer Steer didn't play up to his. Matt McClain certainly didn't live up to his standard. Like across the board, everyone did not live up to their Tyler Stevenson only played 90 games. So I think that it is not even an optimistic view. I think that it is the standard view, which is the Reds will be in the hunt for October for years to come, unless something drastic happens, at least for the next few years. I think that to be absolutely true, that though they might not play many playoff games, they will always be right there at the end of September. Stone, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you can expect it every single year, but I think the page is certainly turning in a positive direction as it relates to them playing postseason baseball. Obviously, we haven't seen this since 2020. Did they have opportunities late the past couple of years to make a push with David Bell? Yeah, sometimes, but I think we can expect them. I'm not going to say be in the playoffs every year, but at least be in contention, be in the hunt, have an opportunity to get in. The extra wild card obviously helps with that. We'll see how long Terry Francona sticks around. I hope that it's for several more years, and this isn't just a 1 or 2 year thing with Francona. But you got a lot of youth on this team. You feel good about where you're at as a pitching staff. Are you going to be able to replicate that each and every year? Yeah, probably not. But you still feel good about those guys. Obviously, you need some more bats, more ability to put the ball over the fence. But shoot, you got it in this year, so I think lots of reason to be optimistic about being in the playoffs as the years progress. Final question here from Haro. As a lifelong Bengals fan, I was promised a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. I thought maybe we would get through a show without talking. I love talking about Joe Burrow, but I thought maybe we'd get through a show without talking about Joe Burrow. No. That is not the case here at 10:52 as we get a little Joe Burrow in this show. But here's the thing. The roster sucks. The coach sucks, and Joe never plays. Should the Bengals scrap the entire thing down and start anew? Huge fan of Chatterbox Reds, by the way. Thank you, Haro, for the question.
Haro, thank you so much for the Tasden Bailey's in the chat right now, saying he's going to get the authorities in, say that these aren't actual questions from the fans. Yeah, that's not the case at all. These are real questions that are
and you were copying them in quickly as we pointed out.
Emailed it into us. Yeah. These are questions that you guys asked, and this one comes from Haro. And it is not a question from deep in my subconscious at all. And it is, should the Bengals scrap everything down because it's pretty apparent that the team isn't very good? The roster isn't very good. And I had this thought yesterday when it comes to the Bengals. And it is almost certainly just me being as overdramatic and knee-jerk reaction as I possibly could about what happened on Monday and what happened last Sunday. And that is that this team is so far away from anything. And that number 9, Joe Burrow, masked so many deficiencies when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals roster. The deficiency of play call, the deficiency from the head coach, the deficiency of the offensive line, the deficiency, even deficiencies on the opposite side of the ball when they're giving up 30-plus points. It is so abundantly clear that that is the case and that we need him to have any success at all, but we can't trust him to have any success at all because he's never on the field, that we don't deserve him. We simply do not here in town. The Bengals, maybe we do. The Bengals franchise does not. And therefore, we should tear it down to its studs. End of the year, you'll still be able to get multiple first-round picks for Joe Burrow, even after his third season-ending injury, even unless he comes back in the middle of December, which that's seeming less and less likely by the day. It really didn't seem likely from the get-go, but it was the only hope you had, so you held on to it. That you got to. I can't trust him to be out on the field, and even when he's out on this field, what are we, a 10-win team? I mean, what's that worth? Not a whole lot. It's better than where we're at, but it's not worth a whole lot. So yeah, strip it down to the stuff, and I mean everything, man. New coach, new front office. Get as many first-round draft picks as you possibly can. Second, third round. See what you can get for Trey. I don't know what you can get for T. Higgins. I know we just signed him for a 4-year deal, and that might sound silly to some. The only guy that I would say is a no-touch is Jamar. And here's the thing about even saying that is based off of nothing other than just speculating off of how wide receivers work in the past, not just Jamar, but pretty much all wide receivers, is that if we traded everything but Jamar, he's not going to be very happy, and he's not going to want to stay here anyways. So then we're like, all right, well, maybe we should just strip this whole thing down and start anew. Start it over. Unless you can get a young, promising quarterback for Joe Burrow and a couple of first-round draft picks. I'm not going to say who. Probably never said it on this show before. But unless you can do that, then you don't strip it down. Then you just kind of like a stark rebuild. But that's where I'm at with the Cincinnati Bengals. And it'll change a lot if we win one of these next 2 games. As I mentioned, I'm just firing at the hip of how I feel in the very moment. And how I feel at this very moment is that we are so freaking far away from ever competing with the big dogs that I just tear it down, baby. Stone, you?
You're so far off on this, Reed. I mean, come on. What are we doing? To be completely honest. I mean, we just, as an organization, I gotta stop saying we, the Bengals as an organization just came to terms with the fact a couple of months ago, we're rolling with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase for our future. The next 4 years, whatever, that's going to be our guys that we're going to build around and try to win around. And we're 4 games into this thing. By the way, have won 2 of those games, and you're ready to blow the entire thing out.
Yeah. We beat the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
With Joe.
Yeah.
And it looked terrible.
Yeah.
And then we beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
And it looked terrible.
Yeah.
Those are our 2 wins. They looked.
Yeah.
We haven't looked good in any of the 4 games.
Yeah. I hear you. And you're just ready to get rid of Joe Burrow.
Because it seems like
you realize how hard it is to get a guy like Joe Burrow on your team?
I get it. And if Joe was always playing, if Joe was if Joe was Josh Allen and he's always out on the field, never hurt.
Yeah.
I'd be singing a different tune. But the problem is we can't rely our entire franchise off of a guy when I can't even expect him to be there over half the time.
It's football. It's violence, a physical game.
I'm not spearheading football. I'm not going against the sport of football. I fully understand what it is. I'm just telling you that even though he is elite, even though he is so good that he masked deficiencies to a point where we look like an elite team when he's out there, where the team is at right now, I don't see anything better than a 10-win team, even with Joe Burrow. And when I say a 10-win team that you might win one game in the postseason. You scamper in.
No. When Joe Burrow's in the postseason, he can win more than one game.
I just don't think we're, A, that same team, and B, the way that the team is currently built. And I don't think it's one or two pieces that we need. I think it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, it's going to be a lot more if you get rid of your 3 best players.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm okay with that because rebuilds in the NFL happen quick. They do. You just got to hit on 2 good drafts, i.e. Detroit Lions, i.e. us, i.e. every quick Washington Commanders. You hit on 1 or 2 drafts, right back in the thick of things. And Joe Burrow is my favorite athlete ever. And I'll defend him tooth and nail. This isn't an anti-Joe Burrow slander, even though
it sounds like you want to get rid of him.
I am taking points, but I'm getting rid of him because I'm a Bengals fan first, and I think that's our best course forward. I think Joe Burrow, when playing on the field, is, if you want me to put an exact number on it, I think he's the 3rd best quarterback in the league. I think the only 2 guys that are better than him are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think he's better than Lamar Jackson.
So let's get rid of him.
Because he's not out there.
He's out there 50% of the time, so that means
and
he'll
when
be out there next year.
your whole team is built around him and the offense, and he's not out there half the time, that's not sustainable. You can't run a business where your best employee shows up half the time. You can't.
How do you know he's going to continue to only show up half the time?
Because that's what I've seen. We're not doing this off of, he's missed 1 year of 2. We're doing this 3 of 6. And even the ones where he has been there, even the seasons where he has been here, i.e. The Super Bowl year, he was kind of hobbled and didn't have a long preseason. The beginning of 2023, he was hurt. Happened, like, even when he's here, he's not at 100%. Last year was the only year where we pretty much had a fully healthy Joe Burrow the entire year, and even including the preseason. It's the only year. So, I guess I'm just out. Like I said, I'm a pretty reactive fan. So if we beat the Detroit Lions this Sunday, then we'll be singing a different tune, probably. Or if we beat the Green Bay Packers in 2 weeks, I'll be probably singing a different tune. But right here, where they sit 2-2 and have looked terrible in all 4 games, and I got blown out. I mean, we might have the worst point differential in the league. We might have the worst point differential in the league, and we're 2-2 because we've lost the last 2 games by a combined 63 points. Yikes. Go Red Legs tonight. Stone Shield Show coming up here right at 11. Thank you so much, Stone. Thank you, Trace Fowler, for coming in here. Thank you guys so much for the mailbag questions. We'll be doing that every Wednesday. We know you guys love it, including, I think while I was sitting here, Tasden Bailey gave us an email. So we'll be getting to that next week here on Off the Bench. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Stone Shield Show here on a Wednesday. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here this morning. Plenty to talk about on today's show. The Reds drop game one in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. 10-5, plenty to unpack as it relates to that game. Moral of the story, the Reds needed Hunter Greene to be exceptional. He's proven in the past he can be exceptional, and he was not exceptional last night. And, you know, you were in a spot where if he wasn't really good, you weren't going to win the baseball game. And that's unfortunately what transpired in Chavez Ravine. Last night, we will unpack some conversation as it relates to the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, we will preview the game a little bit tonight. Zach Littell is the starter. Is he a starter? Is he an opener? How long will he go? Who will they go to after Littell? All very much intriguing questions that I think some of us think we know the answers to, but at the end of the day, we're not going to find out until it actually transpires on the diamond and Tito Francona makes those decisions. Also, we will talk college football on today's show. If you are new to the show, even if you're not new to the show, you understand that I'm a big college football guy. We're going to spend a lot of time here on my show talking about college football. We're going to have, as we kind of figure out exactly what our show is going to look like on a daily, weekly basis, we'll have the NFL Power Rankings. Those will be on Tuesday. And then we'll have our college football top 10. That will be on Wednesday, and we will break that down each and every week. Those are two segments that I want to continue to hit on. One, I have fun doing them, and two, I think, you know, just if you're having a show like this, those are kind of staples that I think you need to have in the show. So we'll break down my top 10 teams, 1 to 10 in college football. College football this year is awesome. You know, there's a lot of people out there that with the conference realignment, the NIL, the transfer portal, were like, oh, it's going to ruin college football. And I had my, I was hesitant a little bit when those changes were being made, but you're seeing the competitive balance be as good as it has ever been in the sport of college football. And I think there are several teams, all top 10 teams that we're going to talk about, I think have a realistic chance of winning the national title. And there are probably a few more teams you could add to that list as well, which is pretty exciting. The Browns have made a quarterback switch. Dylan Gabriel is now the starting quarterback. Joe Flacco has been benched. Obviously, the Browns have one win to this point in the season. And, you know, I'm sure there's some Browns fans that were kind of hoping that it was probably going to be Shedeur Sanders that got his name called as the new starter. But Dylan Gabriel obviously was drafted before Shedeur Sanders, and he's going to get an opportunity here to run the offense for the Cleveland Browns, and we'll talk about that a little bit on today's show. Also, MLB playoffs underway. Great day of baseball yesterday. Unfortunately, at the very end, it didn't end the way us Reds fans wanted it to, but a great game in Cleveland. Tarek Skubal was unbelievable. Skubal was unbelievable in the game. Tigers win 2-1, and the Cubs pick up a big win at home at Wrigley, 3-1, and then also a 3-1 victory for the Boston Red Sox going into New York. And, we predicted on the show yesterday that Boston was going to win that series. They are out to a 1-0 lead. Big game in the Bronx tonight. And obviously the Reds lose 10-5 as well. As always, make sure you like the stream. Subscribe to Chatterbox Sports. We have seen great growth here at Chatterbox over the course of the past couple of weeks, in large part thanks to, of course, Chatterbox Reds, Nick Kirby, Trace Fowler, Craig Sandlin, all the great people helping us out with that have done a tremendous job, and we're looking to continue to grow, obviously, here at the channel for as long as this Reds postseason goes, and beyond that as well, because the content is not going to stop. Obviously, if the Reds lose, the Reds content will die down a little bit, but we will still have plenty to discuss as it relates to the sporting world, as it relates to the city of Cincinnati as well on all of our shows and platforms. So make sure you subscribe, follow us, do all those great things as well, which certainly helps. Give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_ and at The Stone Shields. We got a Twitter page for the show as well, and you'll see over the course of the next couple of weeks more clips go up on that Twitter page, so give that a follow as well at The Stone Shields. We certainly appreciate it. But let's talk Cincinnati Reds as they dropped game one last night against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it kind of just, don't want to say it was over before it began, but just you had a very uneasy feeling, right? Hunter Greene takes the rubber, and you immediately have the pitch com issue, and he looks unsettled. Stevenson comes out. He kind of has a look of, what's going on. They're trying to figure it out. Early in the year in the regular season, you saw this happen a lot with the pitch com stuff. And then, as the season progressed, it kind of became less and less of an issue. But obviously, right away in a playoff game, it was an issue. Not sure if it was, operator error. I think oftentimes when it comes to the pitch comm, it's usually that. Was it turned on? Was it powered correctly? Whatever the case may be. It was pretty loud in there at LA last night, Dodger Stadium. I think, they didn't look like every seat was full. Certainly, we'll see if that changes if tonight or if the Dodgers advance in the postseason. But it was still loud in there. The crowd was still very much into the game, and I think that had the Reds kind of a little bit rattled from the jump. And then obviously Shohei Ohtani, if you miss over the plate with him, is gone. And he proved that immediately. Don't want to say that ended things because it's 1-0, right? You got to score 1 run to win anyway. But then, obviously, a lot of hard contact was given up from Hunter Greene in the ball game, and you kind of were just holding on for dear life. It felt like they're even early on in the game where they weren't necessarily scoring a ton of runs right away, but they were hitting the ball hard, and it was like, okay, how long can the Reds kind of withstand this and continue to get outs? And obviously the answer to that was not very, very long whatsoever. Mookie Betts had the harsh single, and Freddie Freeman in the first inning smoked one to the track, and then you get some momentum there, striking out Muncy looking, and then you get Ohtani in the second inning, and you're like, okay, but then that third inning hits, and obviously for Hunter Greene, that's when things, really hit the fan. Mookie again pieced one. Friedel was able to go back and catch it, but then you have the back-to-back walks. And, early on in years past in Hunter Greene's career, I think the walks were something where it was like, all right, he's giving up too many home runs and he's walking too many people. Well, the walks, that was corrected this year. His walk rate was down significantly here this year than it was last year. But then those 2 walks there, I think there was only 2 walks he issued across the 3 innings, but having 2 guys on in there in that situation with that lineup, guys on base, free base runners for him, and then you have, the wild pitch, and then they're on second and third, and you're kind of like, oh boy, here we go. And then, Teoscar Hernández puts one into the seats, his first of 2 of the night, by the way, and then it's 4-0. And you're just like, we're just you're in a tough spot. In the third inning with your ace, he's getting shelled. It's 3-0. And, obviously it's a very bad situation. Then later in the inning, or the next batter, Edman goes deep, and it's 5-0. And based on the at-bats that you had against Snell to that point, I mean, it was like, are the Reds even going to score a run, right? I think early on in that game, at least for me personally, I started thinking back to that Atlanta series during COVID, where it was like, the Reds had put themselves in some spots with their pitching, Trevor Bauer in that first game, but they couldn't score. They didn't score a run that series, and you're like, are we going to not score a run again this series against the Dodgers? You're able to break through, score one, make it, 10-1 or 8-1 at the time. LA with the fielder's choice, he's able to beat it out barely. You're able to get a run on the board, and then you got some positive momentum there once you got to the bullpen. And obviously that is why the Dodgers, in my opinion, don't have a bye, is because that bullpen is horrible. Clearly the weakest point of their team. I think if they had a solid bullpen or a decent bullpen, they probably wouldn't be playing in the wild card round, but obviously that was not the case, as their bullpen has been horrible. The guys that they brought in, walking guys, struggling to locate their pitches, giving up a couple of hits there, obviously, as well. And, for a second there, it was like, oh, the Reds going to get back into this game. I believe it was the 8th inning when you had the bases loaded, and then you had a bit of a threat going, right? LA is able to get on with the walk. A run comes in, and then Stevenson's up, and he's fighting for his life, right? And you're sitting there going, well, if he can, it's a 10-5 game at the time. If he comes up with a big hit here, you're in a spot where you're not quite dead, and you can apply some pressure. And you had the broadcasters talking about, what the biggest postseason comebacks in the history of Major League Baseball were, and you're like, okay, it was a great at-bat from Stevenson. Unfortunately, he swung at ball 4 a couple of times. I'm not going to knock him for that. All right, he's up there. He's being aggressive. He's trying to get a hit. Really competitive at bat. He's found pitches off. Unfortunately, he chases one downstairs. It's a strikeout, and then keep Brian Hayes unable to do anything in that spot either. But you kind of felt like you had battled back there to that point. They were kind of, for a while there, it was like, you're going to get blown out. How are we going to pick up the pieces and go play again tomorrow, which obviously is today. But that wasn't really the case. You fought. You continued to fight. You got your way somewhat back in the game. You look at the score and say, well, you lost by 5. You didn't really get your way back in the game. But, you had the bases loaded with 1 out, down 5, a hit. Then you really feel like you're back in the game. So, I think some of that momentum hopefully can carry over to tonight. Again, it's not like you lost 10-0. You were able to get some runs on the board, create some positive momentum. You had a couple of guys that had multiple hits, right? How about Matt McClain? We've all been banging on him, but Matt McClain had a solid day. He did have the 2 strikeouts, obviously, but a couple of knocks, and Spencer Steer clearly was your best bat in the game. He had a couple of hits. Believe he got on with a walk there as well, but Spencer Steer, he showed up in a big way offensively this game for you, and unfortunately that was the only guy really that did for the Cincinnati Reds. And we talked about, Elly De La Cruz yesterday, talked about Elly having to have a good series, right? Needed Hunter Greene to pitch well to win game 1, but you also, if you wanted to have a chance to win the series, needed Elly to play well. And obviously he was, batting right-handed. He's gotten better as a right-handed hitter, but certainly not the same caliber of player that he is from the left-handed side of the box, and unable to get any knocks in the game last night. And obviously that was an issue for the Cincinnati Reds. And we'll see if they move him up at all in the lineup against Yamamoto tonight. But overall, you needed more production from those guys. The offensive woes, you knew that was going to kind of rear its ugly head. I think going into the game, if you were told the Reds were going to score 5 runs in this game, again, they got fortunate with some of the just atrocity that is the Dodger bullpen. But I think a lot of us would have said, yeah, sign me up. We'll see what happens. Green on the bump. You're giving us 5. Let's go, even with that lineup. And, unfortunately, that obviously wasn't even close to being enough. Tito talked about it after the game. Hunter just couldn't locate. Couldn't locate in this game. Something he's got a lot better at, right? Pitching on the corners, getting guys to chase when the pitch is outside the zone. He missed over the heart of the plate way too many times. And if you do that against this lineup, you're in deep, deep trouble. And it's just so deep, right? I mean, all these guys on the lineup, even the last few guys where it's like, you might not exactly know who exactly there are. They're not household names, but even they can hit, right? And Shohei Hernández, my goodness. Guy was batting, 220 all year, but then he gets to October, September 30th last night, and he just delivers. The guy is a postseason ball player, and, he wasn't a guy that's an everyday guy for the Dodgers, but Dave Roberts is like, yeah, we're throwing him in the playoff game, and he was unbelievable in the playoff game there as well. So there's just no let up in that lineup. You got Littell going tonight, and, as we shift this conversation a little bit from last night to tonight and kind of, see where this team's at. There's going to be some people that say, oh, the Reds are, it's cooked, it's over. There's no reason to have that approach, right? There's so many people that had that approach through various times of the season to this point. Now you're in the playoff. Yeah, you got beat pretty bad, really bad last night, but you have an opportunity again tonight. Yeah, it's a win-or-go-home game, but if you can find a way to win Game 3, final game of the series, regardless, anything could happen. So you're just trying to find a way to get to a Game 3. The bullpen thing, as one more thing I want to say about last night's game, the Scott Barlow decision, I'm not sure if Tito talked about that particularly after the game. I didn't get it. Were you going to come back and win after what happened, with Hunter Greene early on? Probably not, but Scott Barlow was locked in. Inning and 2/3, struck out 4 guys. He looked unbelievable in the game, and then you pulled him for another righty. Right? It's not like you put a lefty in the game. You pulled him for Connor Phillips, who obviously you wouldn't be in this spot without Connor Phillips. He's been great for you over the course of the past couple of weeks, but he was bad last night. He got touched up. They're hitting the ball really, really hard off him, hitting the ball over the fence off him there as well. And I just didn't get that decision. Like, what are you saving Scott for? Right? I mean, I get that he's typically not a guy that goes in and goes for a long time. I get that, right? That's not who he is as a pitcher, but I mean, at least let him give up a hit before you go out there and take him out of the ball game. I thought he was exceptional in the game, and then obviously he gets pulled. Connor Phillips struggles. He gets Suter. You don't feel great about that anyway, but the game probably is already out of hand at that point. Chase Burns did not throw last night, so he's in a position where we're probably going to see him in the game. Ashcraft looked good in the inning that he was out there last night, but I think you can expect to obviously see Littell. You're probably going to see Nick Lodolo. I think that seems to be what's going to happen in this game, and I would expect you to see Chase Burns as well. And you argue your 2 best guys, Santillan and Pagan, obviously didn't go last night either, but it's all hands on deck here tonight. At the slightest, if Littell goes in there and gives him a home run, you probably go get him, right? There's no room for error. And if guys go in and give up a couple of hard hits, they're out, right? So you still have, despite, throwing 4 guys out of your pen last night, you still have good guys that are available tonight that you can go to, and obviously it's a winner-go-home game. You're going to do everything you can to win this game. Are you in a spot where you could potentially go to Abbott tonight? I don't know. I know some people have mentioned that. We'll see. Obviously, Abbott, if there's a Game 3, is going to be the starter for Game 3, which would just be awesome to see Abbott get an opportunity. I think, obviously he hasn't pitched in the postseason. I get it was, obviously Hunter's turn in the rotation to go, whatever. But, if you asked me for much of this Red season over the course of 162 games, if you said, got to have a game, who do you want to take in the hill? It wasn't Hunter Greene. All right, obviously he was hurt, but it was Andrew Abbott. And I honestly, obviously he's kind of, he gets a little tired, worn down a little bit. He's not nearly the same pitcher now as he was earlier in the year. But if, the Reds go in the postseason and Abbott doesn't get an opportunity to even pick up the baseball, that's going to be hard for me to stomach that, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I don't know if he's going to be in the plans tonight. If they go to him late, and then obviously he wouldn't be able to go tomorrow. So we'll see about that. But I just really hope we get to see Andrew Abbott pitch in the postseason, because I think he has the ability to be a really, really good postseason pitcher. And obviously we haven't seen him ever do that in his career, as obviously this is his first time being in the playoffs. But let's talk about tonight. Littell gets the ball. And, there's some people that are like, oh, boy, Littell's getting the ball. Well, again, I've said this about several guys. All right, if you didn't make the acquisition for Littell, you're not in this spot. Littell's done some great things for you since coming over during the trade. Obviously, Nick Kral's made 3 trades there, Key Bryant, Andujar, and Littell. And he deserves a lot of credit for those moves because, even if you don't make one of them, I don't know if you're in this spot where you're in the postseason. Obviously, the team clinched game 162. So, Littell, a completely different pitcher than Hunter Greene, which I think is advantageous, obviously, for the Cincinnati Reds. Hunter Greene, obviously, is going to try to, overpower you with his fastball and then change speeds on you with his slider that obviously has gotten a lot better this year. But Littell's the guy who likes to live on the edges, right? He throws that split finger, which when it's working, that is nasty. That is nasty. And if he's not missing over the heart of the plate, there's a chance he could get a lot of weak contact in this game. Especially, I'm expecting, we'll see what their approach is at the plate, but I think they're probably going to try to continue to be aggressive, right? Clearly they were aggressive last night, and they scored 10 runs. So I would imagine their approach is going to be very similar. I think Littell has the ability to get some weak contact, but if he misses over the heart of the plate, especially in that first inning going against Ohtani and Freeman and Betts, that's a serious issue, obviously. But I think he's got an opportunity to potentially pitch well against his team. And the question, of course, becomes, well, how long does he stay in the game? There are some people that think he's only going to throw the first inning. Could he go, a second inning? We'll see. I think my mindset is I don't want to go in with okay, this is what we're doing before the game starts. I never think that is a good situation to be in, regardless of the sport. Right? I get having a game plan and get wanting to stick with it, but if he goes out there and shoves against Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, and they don't even get any hard contact off him, and clearly he looks good, don't pull him just because you thought that was your plan going in. Let him go. Now, the question is, do you let him face Ohtani a second time? That I don't know. Even if he's, cooking through the first, every batter the first time, the first 9, do you go to him and let him face Ohtani for a second time, or do you bring, presumably, Nick Lodolo, a lefty, to face Ohtani in that situation? You probably don't keep him in that long, but I'm fine if he's pitching well to let him go through the lineup one time. We'll see ultimately if that is the decision that Tito Francona makes. Now, Trace mentioned this earlier on off the bench, and I think he hit the nail on the head. Lodolo, they're probably trying to kind of protect him a little bit because he's obviously not 100%. He was pitching well the last time he was the starter, and he had the issue, wasn't feeling 100%. Obviously there were reports that he wanted to stay in the game, but Tito was like, "No, you're coming out. We're gonna need you," and clearly they do need him. So I don't expect him to be 100%, but past couple of times he's thrown the ball, he's looked really, really good. How long can you go with Nick Lodolo? Obviously, if he's the starter in this game and, he isn't 100% and then you got to go to the pen quickly, that kind of feels like, a deflating situation for you. But now he's in the pen and, has that ability to work several innings because obviously he is a starter. So I think we're going to see Nick Lodolo at some point Obviously you want to see a lefty, right? That you didn't throw a lefty at all, well, besides Suter, as the only lefty that you threw last night. So I think getting a left-handed pitcher in early would be a good idea. Again, don't want to pull Littell if he's doing well, but first sign of trouble, I'm fine going out to the pen, getting Lodolo, and seeing how far you can go with him. Now, what's the plan beyond that? We'll see. I expect Chase Burns to probably get the baseball tonight. And then some of the things that you saw with Hunter Greene worries you a little bit about Chase Burns. He's been great out of the pen, but if he can't locate against this lineup, I don't care how hard you throw, you're going to get smacked around against the Dodgers. That's just kind of the reality of the situation. So hopefully if Burns can come in, he can calm himself. He's going to be incredibly fired up once he comes in to the ballgame, if he comes in, and we'll see how he's able to execute. And then, again, you need to see Santillan at some point, right? I mean, he's been your best guy out of the pen all year. He's got to throw. If you're in a gotta-have-it situation, you probably want Santillan out there. And then, obviously, if you're in a safe situation, it's going to be Emilio, I would imagine. And mentioned Abbott earlier. Hard to imagine they'd go to him. But, I mean, you need to win tonight. There is no tomorrow if you don't win tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how Terry Francona handles that. But that's kind of what the pitching landscape looks like in this game for you. I think we're all expecting to see Lodolo at some point. It's just a matter of time, and I think that'll help Cincinnati to have a left-handed pitcher in the ballgame. Andujar, he went 0 for last night. I've been saying, the past couple of weeks, play Andujar, play Andujar, play Andujar. And, finally, towards the very end of the year here, Tito started doing it, started having success with it. And against a left-handed pitcher, nobody's better in Major League Baseball than Miguel Andujar against lefties. And he goes hitless last night, so that's obviously a little bit demoralizing. Did score the one run. But, against Yamamoto tonight, I think we can expect Andujar to probably be out of the lineup. I mean, Lux is definitely going to be in. So is he the DH? We'll see. Or is he playing somewhere in the field? We'll see. But, for the most part, I was okay with what the lineup that Tito rolled out there. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to make any adjustments at the top. It's going to be Friedel and Marte. Noel V last night looked a little jumpy. Clearly his first postseason game. Looked like he was trying to do a little bit too much. Snell was kind of feathering that outside corner on him, and he just kept chasing. It's going to happen with a young player. Could you move him down and put somebody else up? Maybe, but that's kind of what you've been rolling with here over the course of the past couple of weeks, and it's worked. So I don't see them making a wholesale change there at the top of their lineup. I think it'll probably be Friedel and Marte, and I think you can expect Gavin Lux against a righty Yamamoto to be the three-hitter tonight, maybe the DH. What do you do with Austin Hayes? He did have a hit in the game last night. I've mentioned before on the show, I struggle a little bit with Austin Hayes. Yeah, he plays hard, and yeah, he has the ability to have pop, but oftentimes feels like he has no approach up there at the plate. I would probably try to get Steer a little bit higher up in the lineup, to be honest with you, because he clearly was the best hitter last night for you, and he looked the most comfortable as well, which I think is really, really important. You're going to get to see Ellie spin around and bat left-handed, which I think is definitely a positive sign, and you offer some power there, certainly, from that side from Ellie. Again, what Trace said earlier, I think you have to go with Stevenson in this game. If you sit him for Trevino in a do-or-die game, that to me makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense at all. No ifs, ands, or buts. Tyler Stevenson needs to be starting at catcher tonight. 1 for 4 in the game last night, but had some quality at-bats. He looked comfortable. The moment didn't look too big for him. Obviously, that at-bat in the 8th inning, he had an opportunity to really put Cincinnati back into this game. He wasn't really able to do anything with it. He struck out, but it was a really, really good at-bat. Saw a lot of pitches, fouled a lot of pitches off. Stevenson's got to be in the lineup tonight. I would move Steer up a little bit. I'd keep McLean right where he's at. I mean, he was going to play anyway, even if he went 0 for last night, but had the 2 hits. Wouldn't move him up. Keep him right there at that 9 spot. And Key Bryant obviously has really struggled, at the plate. And the question is, what do you do? Do you keep him in the lineup there, or do you go with Sal Stewart, who obviously ended up getting an opportunity last night, was able to walk with the bases loaded, picks up an RBI in the postseason for him, but I don't know. It's just a tough situation. And to me, that's the toughest call, right? Because you know that Key Bryant's going to be locked down at third. And you notice the Reds team that every run the opposition scores counts in a big way. But then you also need you need more offense, and Key Bryant can't provide you any offense here at this point. So we'll see if Sal Stewart gets the call. Would imagine Gavin Lux is going to be the DH, so you probably got to roll Sal out there as the third baseman if you play him. And that, to me, is the biggest decision that Tito has to make tonight. Again, I don't expect him to completely go away from what they've had success doing in the past couple of weeks and totally changed our lineup. So I think it'll be Friedel leading off. think it'll be Noel V2. Gavin Lux against a righty. He's always batting third, right? We'll see what they do at that 4 spot. I personally would bring Steer up a little in the order. I think you'll see Ellie move up a tick against a righty there as well. But what to do there at third base? Is it Key Brian Hayes or it's Sal Stewart? That, to me, is the biggest question that Tito has. I'm sure he's obviously already made it at this point, and we'll see ultimately what he opts to go with. But the Reds are in a spot where they still have life, as we've talked about. No reason to write them off here at this point, but they have to be able to generate some positive momentum early in the ballgame. Because if you find yourself in a spot where you're behind early again, that can be really, really demoralizing for you. And that, to me, the first 2 innings of this game, or the first inning of this game, is so critical for Cincinnati. Littell has to go out there and set the tone. He can give up a couple hits in the first inning, but you want to go to that second inning with the Dodgers having no runs. If you can do that, you feel like you have a chance. But it's Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, the best 3 guys that you could probably roll out there, so it's certainly a tremendous challenge. But starting the game off strong and feeling like you have an opportunity to take this game. It didn't really feel like you ever had a chance last night. You never had any momentum on your side. Even when you scored a couple of runs, had the bases loaded in the 8th late, you were looking at the scoreboard saying, we're already 5 behind, at this point. Whereas tonight, if you can apply a little bit of pressure early, give yourself some positive momentum, and put yourself in a situation when you're in the middle of the ball game, looking up at the scoreboard saying, okay, we are in this thing. We don't need a miracle to get back into it. I think that could offer you some positive juice. And then if you can get this thing to game 3, we'll see. And certainly we'll be looking forward to talking about it tomorrow if that is the case. Disappointing last night. Disappointing performance from Hunter Greene. I think when the Reds make the playoffs, obviously there are those of us that are tapped in all the time, and there are those of us from Chatterbox Reds that are literally tapped in at all times. And then there's, the casual fan that they tuned in probably once they saw, they won that first game against the Cubs. Okay, now we're back in. And then there are those that weren't in until last night. That was the first time that they were back watching the team. And, Mo Egger put out a tweet about this yesterday. There was some people that in the fan base that don't love Hunter Greene, and that was an opportunity for him to get that part of the fan base on his side. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to live up to that, as he had a bad game again against an incredible lineup. Lots of guys go out there and have bad games against the Dodgers. Don't want to kill them for it. And, if the Reds were in a spot as a team where they had a better offense, or they weren't just solely reliant on their pitching, maybe, you're able to circumvent that and get around that. But the reality is the way for the Reds to win last night was for Hunter Greene to be exceptional. And he obviously went 3 innings, gave up a bunch of runs. That was not the performance that Cincinnati needed out of him. I'm not writing off Hunter Greene by any stretch. He's still going to be the ace here for the foreseeable future. We'll see what he can do. First postseason experience. It wasn't against the Braves or, the Diamondbacks or the Padres or even the Brewers, right? It was against the Dodgers, which, going back home to L.A. for Hunter Greene, that's a lot. He needed to be better. Unfortunately, he didn't locate well enough to be successful in the game. And there's still going to be that portion of the fan base that, don't believe in Hunter Greene. And, until you perform in the biggest of moments in the postseason as an ace, as someone that talks like an ace, walks around like he's the ace, wants to be the ace, if you don't perform like one in the biggest moments, you're going to get criticized for it, and that's the situation that Hunter's dealing with right now. Hopefully we get to see him throw again this year in the postseason, but obviously need a lot to go the Reds' way in order for that to be the case. All right, let's shift our conversation here a little bit to college football. As I said at the top of today's show, we're going to do NFL Power Rankings every week, and I'm going to give my top 10 college football teams each week there as well. And, really excited and looking forward to doing that each and every week. And I love college football. If you're not hip to college football, I really encourage you to get in on it, because there's so many people that I know that are such big NFL fans, and then they just are disconnected totally from college. And I'm like, it's like literally It's the same sport. Obviously, they're not as good, but some of these guys obviously get drafted to play in the NFL, right? All the guys that play in the NFL, what did they do before? Oh, yeah, they played college football, right? The environments are insane. The competitive balance has never been better. And, I think college football is in a really incredible spot right now. So we're going to go 10-1 here, and I'll mention kind of what the AP ranking has at this point, and then what my ranking is as we go through these. But, at this point of the year, you don't have the college football playoff rankings. The AP rankings, do they mean anything? Not really, but, it just kind of gives you a gauge for, where this group, the AP, has. Each of these teams, they've got to figure that out, the whole situation. I'm here for, why can't we just get college football playoff rankings immediately? Week 1, let's hear them. I'm here for it and just do away with the AP. But talked about, some of the issues I had with the AP, Washington not being ranked before that game against Ohio State. Now, after the game, it looks like, maybe they shouldn't have been ranked. No, Ohio State's just really, really good, and we'll talk about them in a second. But coming in at number 10 is Texas. Texas, obviously, preseason number 1. They go into Columbus. Can't score points, but newsflash, nobody's scoring points against that Ohio State defense. Arch Manning, everybody's saying he's going to win the Heisman, all this. Clearly, Arch Manning is not as good as people anticipated he would be. For the record, I still think he will develop into a good player. He will still be in college football next year, and I still think he has an opportunity to become an NFL quarterback, and a starting NFL quarterback with a capable franchise and have an opportunity to win games in the NFL. Obviously, a long, long way before he gets to that point. There's a lot that he has to clean up with his mechanics and his decision-making and his accuracy with the football, to be honest with you. Because, coming into the year, I think a lot of people, obviously, it's been well documented, the competition or lack thereof that he faced in high school. But he was accurate with the football, and that's something that he is not right now. He is not accurate with the football. But what is good for Texas is that defense is unbelievable. That defense is really, really good. Is it as good as Ohio State's? No, but besides Ohio State, that might be the best defense in college football, what they're doing in Austin, Texas with Sark and those boys. They've had some layups here over the course of the past couple of weeks after the Ohio State game to kind of, get Arch's feet wet, get him comfortable a little bit. Arch struggled a lot against San Jose State. He struggled a lot against UTEP. They only won that game 27-10. And then against Sam Houston, who over the course of the past few years in college football has been one of the worst, if not the worst, college football teams in college football. Arch played well in that game. Now he has a test here on the road against Florida. Going into the year, you would think, this is definitely a ranked matchup, right? DJ Lagway, supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Been a total disaster for Florida so far this year. DJ Lagway can't stop throwing the football to the other team. They look unprepared, uninspired, and they're getting smacked around. However, they're going to show up in the swamp for this game. Second big road test for Arch Manning. Obviously, he faced it going into the shoe in week 1. Now he goes into the swamp. They're going to be there, and they're going to be loud. 3:30 game here this week. Again, should have been a really, really good game for Texas and Florida, and a great college football game. Doesn't have that same luster with as bad as Florida has been, but the spread's only 6.5, right? Arch is going to have to show that he has improved over the course of these past few weeks against these bad teams. And with the defense, he has the ability to not have to be Superman, and I think that's huge. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought he was going to be Superman this year for Texas. He doesn't need to be for them to have success and win football games and get into the college football playoff. With that defense and with Sark at the helm, I've got my questions with Sark as it relates to winning big football games, so there's no question he's a top 5 to 7, college coach, probably definitely a top 5 coach in college football. And with the defense that they have and the way they fly around, make plays, turn over the opposition, I've got them at number 10. I still think they're a top 10 team despite the struggles of Arch Manning and despite the struggles of that offense there as well. The AP poll has them at 9. I have them at number 10. Penn State is who I have at number 9. The AP poll has them at number 7. You've got question marks. They have not beaten a top 10 opponent in the regular season since Ohio State in 2016, and they got lucky to win that football game. I get it. James Franklin, I think he's wildly overrated. His teams are wildly overrated each and every year, and that certainly is a big, big issue for him. But one thing I will give him credit for, it's not like he goes into these big games and gets blown out. He's usually always very, very competitive, and he was very, very competitive again against Oregon. But to me, when I watch Penn State in these big games, they play it too close to the vest. They play to try to not lose. They don't play to try to go out there and win. You saw issues with this at Ryan Day for several years at Ohio State. You've got talent on your team. Go out there, cut it loose, and try to win. And also something that I see is their offensive coordinator and their quarterback not exactly on the same page. It doesn't look like the play calling that Penn State has helps Drew Aller be the best he can be. It's kind of different. It doesn't mirror each other. It doesn't help him improve his game. The strengths that he has isn't what they like to do offensively. They have to adapt that. All right, the best coaches understand that they can adapt what they do to personnel. All right, for whatever reason, Penn State hasn't had the ability to do that. Drew Aller, when he's under center, play action, pushing the ball down the football field, he can be a good quarterback. When he's doing RPO stuff, right, and relying on, having quick feet or making quick decisions on, whether to keep the ball or what have you, or pull it, he's not that good. He's pushing the ball down the football field. That's when he can be solid, and they're not doing that enough for Penn State. So I think they need to have some changes to their style on offense, their game planning. I think that could certainly help them. But they're still a top 10 team. They've got a lot of talent. Defensively, they've got some dudes. They've got some guys on the outside. They can run the football. Oregon, by the way, did a great job at slowing down that running attack. We'll talk about Oregon in a second. But Penn State, to me, still very clearly a top 10 team. I'm not as high on them as the AP poll is. I've got them at number 9. At number 8, Georgia. The AP poll has them at 12. I've got them at 8 here in this spot. Gunnar Stockton, going into this year, I didn't think he was going to be able to play well enough for them to be a top team in the country. Kirby's always going to have his team ready to go. Kirby's always going to outcoach the other coach that he's facing. He's always going to have a defense that flies around and is violent and makes plays. Is this one of the worst defenses he's had? Yes, that's fair to say, but still a very competent defense for Kirby Smart. They've got some weapons. They can run the football there as well. My question was Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton has answered a lot of those questions. I saw he made some big-time throws in the game against Alabama, obviously in a losing effort. But Georgia, to me, is still very much a top 10 team. When you look at Georgia's schedule, they're in a spot where they've got some difficult games coming up, but Kentucky, that's kind of a get-right game, seemingly, for everybody in the SEC. Then they go to Auburn, but a couple of tough games for them, playing Texas and Ole Miss. Good news for them. Both of those games are at home. And then Georgia Tech, their final game of the year, as it always is. Georgia Tech's good, right? They are really, really good this year with Haynes King and what he's been able to do for them at that quarterback spot. Going on, leaving Athens for that game, difficult for Georgia. Georgia Tech, undefeated at this point, had a scare against Wake Forest last week. They were able to pull it out in overtime. But I would be shocked if Georgia loses more than one more game in the regular season. I view them as a lock to make the playoff. They've got the best coach in college football and a quarterback in Gunnar Stockton who played really well against Tennessee and was fine in the game against Alabama as well. He's playing a lot better than I anticipated. I've got Georgia at number 8. At number 7, the team that just beat Georgia. That is the Alabama Crimson Tide. I've got them at 7. The AP poll has them at 10. What a response from Alabama after what transpired week 1 against Florida State. They look like a totally different football team. Kalen DeBoer deserves an incredible amount of credit. Based on how the season ended for them last year with Jalen Milroe and how it began in week 1, you had people calling for his job. You had people completely attacking everything about Kalen DeBoer, saying, yeah, I don't care what the buyout is. Get him the heck out of here. I'm sure he got death threats and just crazy stuff down there at Alabama as well, and his team responded by getting ready, getting focused, bouncing back, locking in, being more disciplined. They're physical, they're violent, they're playing around, they're playing free. They look unbelievable, and they look like a team that can beat anybody in the country. And yes, I'm talking about they could go beat Oregon, and yes, they could go beat Ohio State as well. Ty Simpson, not sure anybody's playing the quarterback position better than Ty Simpson at this point. People laughed at me when I said after the Florida State game that, obviously it was an ugly game. It couldn't have really went much worse for Alabama, but they have a quarterback in Ty Simpson. I was laughed at for that. Well, I don't think those people are laughing anymore because Ty Simpson looks really incredible. He's seeing it clearly. He's not panicking. Needs to make an adjustment at the line of scrimmage. He does that. He drops back. He gets the ball out quick. They bring pressure. That's fine. I'll get the ball out quick. You're going to give me some time? That's fine. I'll push the football down the football field. He can make all the throws. He's just ripping the football. He's ripping it. He can absolutely spin it. He looks really, really good. He looks composed. The team clearly, it's his team. All right, I don't know if you've seen the clips on social media about the guys rallying around him, whatever the case may be, but it is very clearly Ty Simpson's team, and everybody in Tuscaloosa understands that. If he can stay healthy and get decent protection, there's no limit to where he can take this Alabama football team here this year. Got to give credit to the offensive line. They got bullied in week 1 against Florida State. This was an offensive line that was supposed to be solid coming into the year. and now they're turning into being a little bit more solid. They played really well against Georgia, playing more nasty, more physical style football, and the whole Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer thing, you're starting to see that there as well. You know, there's supposed to be great offensive minds that dial up great stuff. You're starting to see that more as Ryan Grubb starts to get more comfortable here in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama, their schedule is about as tough as it gets, and they've got another tough one this week against Vandy. They get them at home. I need to see another win before I fully say, all right, they're ready to go compete for a national championship, but the schedule is incredibly difficult. Vandy, who obviously beat him last year, Pavia is playing great football again. Clark Lee, what he's doing as their head coach, he's going to have them coming in feeling confident, feeling like they can come in to Bryant-Denny Stadium and pick up a win Saturday. Unbelievable. College game days there, 3:30 this Saturday. And then you got to go to Mizzou, Mizzou, by the way, is undefeated, and nobody's talking about him. Their running back might be one of the best players in the country. Tennessee, rivalry game, third Saturday in October, always going to be unbelievable. You lost last year to Tennessee, so there's a bit of a trying to get back on that loss from last year. DeBoer 0-1 against Tennessee. South Carolina, who isn't as good as people thought, but got to go on the road to South Carolina and play. We'll see if Sellers is ready to go for that game. LSU, who they were my pick to win the national title. They don't look like a very good football team. We'll talk about who beat them here in a second. But that's a tough game. Oklahoma, Mateer maybe will be back by then, and Auburn's always going to be incredibly difficult. So it's just a gauntlet for Alabama. And the gauntlet began last week against Georgia, arguably the toughest test out of all of them in Athens in between the hedges, and you answered the bell. We'll see if you can continue to carry that momentum over. That was something about Nick Saban teams, right? They would pick up a big win after, even if they lose, they pick up a big win. Well, they didn't revert back to their old habits. They were able to continue that momentum and stay that laser focus even after picking up a win. Nick Saban teams with one loss, dangerous, lethal. Nick Saban with one loss, absolutely lethal. And now Kalen DeBoer has one loss, obviously, and he's been lethal ever since. We'll see if he can continue to have one loss, but really fired up about Alabama. They got skill guys on the outside. Their defense flies around, makes plays. Had Tim Keenan back, had Jam Miller back at running back. That was huge for them. And pass protection, right? He was eating some of those blitzes from Georgia. In that football game, Quay Russaw, one of your best players on defense, he breaks his foot. That's a huge issue. So the health, a bit of a concern for Alabama, but I don't get how the AP poll has them at 10. I think that's just way too low. I've got them at 7. I think you could argue they are better than that as well. At 6, I have Ole Miss. AP poll has them at 4. Last week I said they were overrated, and they responded by beating LSU. And, that the score of that game I don't think indicates, how dominant Ole Miss was in that game. I think it was more one-sided than the scoreboard would indicate. Lane Kiffin's got him playing some good football. He's got a decision to make at quarterback, right, because Chambliss has been playing pretty well. Obviously, the D2 transfer, won national titles at the D2 level. Simmons, their guy that started the year, he was hurt, played through some injury. Now he's been sitting. Kiffin talked about it's a good problem to have. We'll see what they do. Defensively, they're a lot more improved, which you got to give Kiffin credit for that. When he first got to Ole Miss, it was, they'll score a ton of points, but they won't guard anybody and won't defend at all. It's a much better defense this year for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. AP polls got him at 4. I'm hesitant to put him at that high. I've got him at 6, but they won me over a little bit. I still need to see it more as they progress throughout the SEC. Indiana, I've got them at 5. AP polls got them at 8. We'll see. Obviously, they don't have Ohio State on the schedule, but they do have Oregon on the schedule in a couple of weeks. That will be an awesome football game to see if they can hang in there. But the reason why I'm so impressed with Indiana is clearly they're playing with a bunch of confidence. Clearly, last year was not a fluke for Indiana, which there were some people that thought maybe it was. It wasn't. All right, the 2 games that Indiana has lost over the course of the past 2 years was at Ohio State and at Notre Dame. Pretty difficult games there for the Hoosiers, and they've done a tremendous job playing really well once again. The thing that impressed me the most is they have multiple ways in which they can win, and you saw it in back-to-back weeks. You go to Illinois or play Illinois, you blow them out 63-10, not even competitive, not even close. Iowa, it's a feisty team, right? People always say, top teams in the country, they go to Iowa to die, and Iowa played their typical brand of football. They want to make it ugly, low scoring, long possessions, right? Just kind of nitty-gritty football is what Ferentz and those guys have always been like forever. And Indiana was able to play that style of football too and win that style of football there as well. Mendoza, the quarterback, he can spin it. He's got confidence in himself. He's got confidence in the guys around him. I'm bullish on Indiana. Do I think they can go beat Oregon? No, but I do think they're a lot better than last year. I think last year it was pretty obvious. Yeah, they were winning a bunch of games, but were they going to, beat a really, really good team? No. I think this year they might be able to beat a really, really good team. 5, I might be getting a little too aggressive, but I think they definitely deserve to be in the top 8 in the rankings here at this point. 4, I got A&M. Texas A&M's really good. Kind of what I just talked about with Indiana. Showed they have multiple ways in which they can win. To be an elite college football team, you have to be able to do that. You can't just win one way. You're not going to be able to get to the promised land if you do that. AP poll has him at 6. I've got him at 4. You saw him really have to throw the football well with Marcel Reed against Notre Dame. He did that. A lot of people coming into the year didn't know if he had the ability to spin the football like that and have a passing attack that was really, really good. He did. And then against Auburn, they obviously weren't throwing the football. They were running the football, and it was kind of a lower-scoring, ugly game. 16-10, by the way, devastating. Best bets of the week, it was -6.5 for A&M, and there was the turnover at the 2-yard line that allowed Auburn to score. Auburn's got all types of issues. I believe only 177 yards of offense. 0 for on third down, just disaster there in the Plains for Hugh Freeze. But it's still an impressive win, I think, for A&M. They showed they have multiple ways to win. I think besides Ohio State, they might have the best receiving duo in college football there as well. They can make plays on the outside. That defense is really good. Mike Elko is a tremendous coach, tremendous leader. He's got them bought in. And that home field advantage at Kyle Field, not sure there's a better one in college football there as well. So A&M, I am really, really high on A&M. And I don't think it's crazy to think that they can go out there and win the SEC this season. Now, 3, 2, and 1, I am in alignment here with the AP poll. You got the Miami Hurricanes at 3, the Oregon Ducks at 2, and the Ohio State Buckeyes at 1. Miami, I'm not fully in on them, but I think we're going to find out this week if we're fully in on Miami. Look, Ruben Bain is one of the best players in the country. He's going to be an incredible player on Sundays. That pass rush spot. The offensive line for Miami is really good, and they have a quarterback that's veteran. He's been there. He's done that. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Say what you want about Carson Beck, but he's playing really competent football for Mario Cristobal right now and Miami. So we'll see what they can do against Florida State. That's going to be a tremendous game this weekend. Florida State coming off the loss on Friday to Virginia. So Norvell's going to have them locked in. I think Malzahn, he's going to show some exotic looks offensively that obviously had Alabama in a blender, and I think the Miami-Florida defense is really going to be challenged there. But it'll be interesting to see how Miami develops, because if they win against Florida State, there isn't really, taking a look at their schedule, it's not like there's many threats coming their way. Louisville, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt. So it's like you're not really going to, you're going to have to watch them closely to really see if they're a good football team or not. And then they're going to get to the playoff, and it's going to be like, well, what can they do against elite level competition? And we'll see. But I think for now they deserve that 3 spot. They check a lot of boxes offensively, defensively. The offensive line's really good. They can run the ball. Veteran quarterback makes good decisions. So I've got Miami in alignment with the AP poll there at 3. Oregon at 2. I think Dan Lanning is making a run for that second best coach in college football. I think he's unbelievable. He has his team show up ready to go, and obviously he got embarrassed against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, but beyond that, all he's done is win. Oregon's owned the Big Ten since coming here, besides obviously getting wiped by Ohio State in that game. But, since coming over, Oregon's done a tremendous job. They're going to be a national title contender year in and year out. And this kind of was, they lost a lot last year. And I don't think a lot of people thought going into the year, they could be a national title threat. I think they was kind of viewed as a bit of a rebuilding year as they got new pieces along the offensive line, obviously working in a new quarterback in Dante Moore. But they're really good in the trenches, which obviously you have to be a national title contender. And Dante Moore is a really good player. At this point, it seems like he's going to be in New York. Not going to say he's going to win the Heisman, but he'll be up for the award. It certainly looks like at this point for him. I mean, the poise and composure that he had as a young player on the road, I think the year of experience at UCLA certainly helped. And he got to sit behind Dylan Gabriel last year. And, he's done a tremendous job leading the way for Oregon so far this year. Oregon, Indiana next week, unbelievable. In Autzen Stadium, we'll see if Indiana can hang with them. I think we're going to find out a lot about both of those teams in that game, but Oregon looks like clearly a top 2 team in the country here to this point, and I'm expecting them to be in the mix late here this season. And Oregon is 2, obviously in my ranking, and Ohio State 1. Can't argue that. I still think there's a bunch of teams that can win the national title. But Ohio State at this point, clearly the best team in the country. There was questions replacing both coordinators. Lots of guys going to the NFL on defense. Defense is the best unit in the country. They fly around and make plays. Had some questions there on the defensive line if it was going to be as good. Might not be as good, but it'll pass. It'll certainly pass. Best linebacker duo in the country, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. I think the question, and we talked about this on the show, going into last week against Washington was Damon Williams, great athlete, but is he going to have the ability to use his legs? Can he create? Can he get on the outside, or is he just going to get sucked in by that first and second level of that Ohio State defense? And that's exactly what happened. He had nowhere to go, and they were bringing him to the ground at an absurd rate. Those guys, they fly around and make plays. Caleb Downs, in my opinion, the best player in the country. He's in your back end, and those corners, Igbinosun, he's still a liability to some degree, but he's improved from last year. He's been a lot better this year. Jermaine Matthews there at the other side. They've got some depth there at that spot there as well. And it still feels like offensively they haven't even just cut it loose yet. I think the sky's the limit for Julian Sayin. I think there's a real world where you sit there at the end of the year and say, Julian Sayin's the best quarterback in the country. He hasn't really had the ability to show that as they're, kind of trying to protect him. It was the first road game, hostile environment, Husky Stadium. But at some point, we'll probably see him cut it loose. And that's going to be a serious, serious issue for opposing teams when that happens with Julian Sayin. But Ohio State, very clearly the best team in the country at this point. Their schedule is weak. The rest of the way, they go to Illinois. That's not going to be an issue for them. They own Penn State, obviously. Not going to say they're going to moonwalk to the Michigan game, but it's hard to imagine that they go into that Michigan game without a loss. And then obviously, all heck usually breaks loose there for the Buckeyes there in that game. We'll see with the new quarterback here. I think the best quarterback that they've had in quite some time. Going to Ann Arbor on the road, and we'll see if Ryan Day can kind of get that monkey off his back. But hard to see them losing a game before the Michigan game when you take a look at their schedule and just exactly how weak it is for Ohio State. Certainly not the schedule that some of the teams in the SEC have to deal with. And but credit to them. They've done a great job so far this year, and they're in a spot where they got to be the front runner to be the national champion this year, and we'll see if that transpires or not. But that defense, man, they haven't given up 10 points yet this year. That's a real unit, and we didn't even, through that whole discussion, didn't even mention Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and their weapons on the outside. So Ohio State very clearly the best team in the country, and we'll see if they're able to continue that. So one more time for you guys, 10-1. Texas 10, Penn State 9, Georgia 8, Alabama 7, Ole Miss 6, Indiana 5, Texas A&M 4, Miami 3, Oregon 2, and Ohio State 1. Two teams I left out, Oklahoma's 5 in the AP poll. Don't have them in my top 10. I just think they're so John Mateer reliant. I haven't seen, from what they can do from that backup quarterback spot. We'll see. Candidly don't know what exactly they've got going on there at that spot, but it felt like a very Mateer-reliant team. They're going to be without him, obviously, for several weeks. Texas Tech, I wanted to put them in there. It feels like they're the best team in the Big 12. Feels like they've got a direct shot to the college football playoff at this point. I feel like the winner of that Texas Tech-Utah game was going to be in that spot to have that direct path to the college football playoff. But we'll see. I wanted to get Texas Tech in there, but I just wasn't able to find a team to kick out to put them in. But Texas Tech, what they've been able to do in the portal, usually when a team goes that heavy in the portal, you see them struggle, and they're not a really good team. They paid a lot of money, spent a lot of money on that roster, and they're playing really good football. Backup quarterback comes in. He looks really, really good too. So Texas Tech feels like probably only a matter of time. If one of those top 10 teams slip up, they'll find their way in the top 10. All right, only got a couple of minutes left here on the show. Browns made a switch at quarterback. We talked about Shedeur Sanders and why he slid. That video actually will go out on YouTube in the coming days, and that went out. We discussed that on a show last week. But, they go with Gabriel over Shedeur. It makes sense, right? I mean, you drafted him before, but the noise is going to get really loud if, Dylan Gabriel struggles early on. People are going to be calling for Shedeur. I believe Flacco is still the backup, and it's not Shedeur, but it's just hard for me to imagine Dylan Gabriel having success at the professional level. I thought he was way overdrafted, thought it was a bad pick. I was a big fan of Gabriel in college, but, the college game totally different from the professional game. I alluded to this on Off the Bench. He's very much a timing and rhythm quarterback. Kind of similar to Tua, not just saying that because they're Hawaiian and left-handed, but very much relying on hitting that back foot and letting it rip. And when he can do that, he can be really, really good. But I just think there's more to play in the position at the NFL level. If he has to escape the pocket, and extend plays, I've got my question marks with that. If he has to push the football down the football field, I have my question marks with that there as well. But they're going with Gabriel. Is he the guy? I don't think he's the guy, right? Franchise guy? I don't think so. So I think, it's still kind of a mess for Cleveland at that quarterback spot. But if Flacco wasn't able to go on a run and win games early in the year, did have the huge upset of Green Bay, but it was only a matter of time before they got these young guys involved, and Gabriel's going to get an opportunity. We'll see how he does, but not to kill the kid right away. I mean, obviously he's got a great opportunity ahead of him, but I don't see it, going well for him. And I think at some point this year we're going to end up seeing Shedeur Sanders, whether Cleveland wants to go to him or not. They're going to be in a spot where they feel like they don't have a choice because they're just not winning games, and they need to find out what they have in Shedeur. But Dylan Gabriel, he says all the right things. Obviously he was a leader at 3 stops, right? Central Florida, Oklahoma, and of course Oregon throughout his college career. So he's a mature guy, but has played a lot of football, and I think that's a reason to be optimistic if you're a Browns fan. But I just think there's too many limitations with what he can do as a quarterback. All right, so we run it back today with the MLB playoffs. Talked about it earlier in the show. Was really impressed with Scooble of the Tigers. We talked about kind of feeling like they definitely were going to win that game. They didn't do much offensively. Cleveland didn't do much wrong offensively, but Scooble was just a little bit better, a little bit too much for Cleveland to handle. We'll see. Game 2, it's going to start here in about an hour. Going to be tremendous. We'll see if Cleveland can push that to a Game 3. Cubs were great again. That was kind of the one. I had the Cubs winning that series, but that was kind of the one where I was like, I could see, San Diego winning the series. I still, by the way, could see them winning the series. A 3-game series. I would say anything could happen. But, again, feel like the winner of that series is probably going to handle business in a 5-game set against Milwaukee. Felt good about Boston. How good was Crochet in the game last night? You heard their manager, Alex Cora, talking about it after the game, where he was talking to Crochet pregame, and Crochet was like, yeah, it's going to go for me, and we're going to go straight to Chappie. And that's exactly what happened. Chapman comes in for the 4-out save. Chapman has really retooled his career. I think, obviously, we all remember when he was here in Cincinnati. He's bounced around a lot, has thrown in the postseason a lot, has had some failures in the postseason. Obviously, it's been in big moments in the postseason. And he's been really good for Boston this year. And I always think it's aggressive when a manager goes for a 4-out save in a playoff situation. I don't love it. And it looked like it was going to go very badly for Boston there, as New York was able to string together 3 consecutive hits. They're in the bottom of the 9th. And then leave them loaded. And Boston gets out of that. They had that extra run of insurance. They win 3-1. I'm expecting them to win that series. Obviously, I picked the Reds to win the series as well. Have an opportunity tonight. We'll see if they're able to capitalize on it, what they can do with it. Littell is the guy that gets the ball. We'll see how long he is in the game. Feels like only a matter of time before Lodolo gets the call. Going to need some clutch hits. Will be nice to put one over the fence there as well. Cincinnati obviously unable to do that last night. Only a few guys that really have the ability to do that. And, I said early in the show, don't know what to do at third base. Sitting here now, just kind of, getting back in that sense that, okay, the Reds are going to play again tonight. I'm going with South Stewart. I think I'm putting that bat in the lineup. Obviously, he's going to be wide-eyed. He's a young kid. It's going to be crazy for him in L.A., but I just keep Ryan the bat. It's not there. It's not there, and it's hard to imagine that the Dodgers don't score a few runs in this game. Even, they scored 10 last night, obviously, and you feel good about your pitching, but it's just hard to imagine they're not going to score a few tonight, and I think you probably want that bat of South Stewart in the game, but we'll see ultimately what Terry Francona decides. But appreciate you, as always, for tuning in to the show. Talk Reds baseball tomorrow. We'll preview the Thursday night football game. We'll talk Bengals. Didn't talk Bengals at all today. We'll do that tomorrow there as well, but got 2 more shows coming at you here at the channel. And Off the Bench, obviously, returning tomorrow as well. Got all types of coverage for you. Nick Kirby, Craig Sandlin, they went live when, I believe, when the lineup came out yesterday. I know they went live when, obviously, the postseason roster was released. Not sure what their plans are today, but be on the lookout for that. Obviously, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Turn on those notifications. You'll get a notification, obviously, when we go live. But great coverage for the Reds tonight. They'll have a pregame show. Trace Fowler, Nick Kirby, they will be live at the first pitch as well, and afterwards for the postgame show. We'll talk about it on Off the Bench. So plenty of Reds coverage coming your way. And we all got our fingers crossed and our hopes up that obviously this isn't the last day that they are playing baseball this season. But that'll do it for this edition of the Stone Shield Show. Appreciate you all once again, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.